The functions f and g are defined as follows. F is equal to 7 minus 2x, and g of x is equal to x cubed. And so here they want us to calculate the value of f of negative 1 over 2. Now we know that the function f of x is equal to 7 minus 2x. That's what we have here. Now we need to evaluate, or we need to figure out what is f of negative 1 over 2. So what that means is wherever we see x, we're going to put negative 1 over 2. So x is right there, so we put negative 1 over 2. And x is right there, so we put negative 1 over 2. So f of negative 1 over 2 is equal to 7 minus 2, open bracket, negative 1 over 2. Now, instead of writing negative 1 over 2, we're going to turn into a decimal. And negative 1 over 2 is simply negative 0.5. And so we have f of negative 0.5 is equal to 7 minus 2, open bracket, negative 0.5. And so what we do here is we multiply in negative 2 by negative 0.5, and that gives us positive 1. So f of negative 1 over 2, or f of negative 0.5, is equal to 7 plus 1, and 7 plus 1 is 8. So that means that f of negative 0.5, or f of negative 1 over 2, is equal to 8. Next, we have to calculate the value of g of 4. G of 4. Now we know that g of x is equal to x cubed. And so here we have 4. So that means that wherever we see x, we're going to put 4. So we see x here, so we put 4 here. And we see x here, so we put 4 here. Now what is 4 cubed? Well, 4 cubed is 4 times 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So 4 cubed is equal to 64. So g of 4 is equal to 64. Next, we have f of x is equal to negative 11. And so we have f of x is equal to negative 11. So what is f of x? Well, f of x is equal to 7 minus 2x. And so we have 7 minus 2x is equal to negative 11. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that we have to solve for x. And so in solving for x, we're going to take this positive 7 and send it over the equal sign. And it becomes a negative 7. So now we have negative 2x is equal to negative 11 minus 7. And so we have a negative 11 minus 7, and negative 11 minus 7 is simply negative 18. And so we have a negative 2x is equal to negative 18. We divide both sides of this equation by negative 2. This negative 2 cancels out with this negative 2, leaving us with x is equal to negative 18 divided by negative 2. And negative 18 divided by negative 2 is equal to positive 9. So x is equal to positive 9. Next, we need to determine, we have to calculate the values of x, for which g of x is equal to 216, or g of x is equal to 216. So we have that g of x is equal to x cubed. And we know that because it says it here right in the function. So g of x is equal to x cubed. So we have x cubed is equal to 216. Here we have to get rid of this exponent, this power 3. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the cube root of both sides. And the reason why we're taking the cube root of both sides is so that we can get rid of this power of 3. So we cancel this with that. So we have that x is equal to the cube root of 216. What is the cube root of 216? The cube root of 216 is 6. And we know that because 6 times 6 times 6 is equal to 216. So x is equal to 6 is this answer. Next, we have next we have f of g of x. So we have these two functions. We have the parent function, which is f, and the baby function, which is g. And we have to put g inside of f. It says give an algebraic expression for f of g of x. And so we have the function f, all right? And what we have to do is we have to replace x with g of x. So we have to put g of x, right, the same function, inside of this function right here. So whenever we see x, we're going to put g of x. So we see x here, so we put g of x here, we see x here, so we put g of x here. And so f of g of x is equal to 7 minus 2 times g of x. But what is g of x? Well, g of x is simply x to the third power. So f of g of x is equal to 7 minus 2x cubed. And this is the answer. This is the algebraic expression for f of g of x. All right, next we have to determine g inverse of x. And so here we have the function g of x, and that's equal to x cubed. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set this g of x equal to y. So g of x is equal to y, so we have we have g of x is equal to y, so we have y is equal to x cubed. So the first thing that we do is we set g of x equal to y. Next, we swap x and y. So we put x on this side and y on this side. And then we solve for y. In order to solve for y, we have to get rid of this power of 3. We have to get rid of this exponent, which is 3. And so we have to take the cube root of both sides. So we take the cube root of x, and we take the cube root of y to the third power. Next, we cancel this with that. So we get that y is equal to the cube root of x. But what is y? Well, y is simply g inverse of x. And so that means that g inverse of x is equal to the cube root of x. And so that's what g inverse of x is. G inverse of x is equal to the cube root of x. And that's the answer to this particular question.